Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this Python course. So this is where we left off in our last video. We covered the print function that can be used to display some text in our terminal window. If you haven't watched that video, please check that out. The link should be in the description. Okay, so let's get started with this video. Today we will learn about variables. Now you might have heard about variables in your math class if you ever studied linear algebra, and that is the same concept here. But even if you don't know anything about that, don't worry, it's not that hard to understand. So a variable is like a storage container that can store a particular value. For example, a variable can be used to store the name and contact details of a person so that you can use them further in your program rather than typing out the exact same details over and over again. So let's see how to use variables in your Python program. First, start by writing the name of the variable and then an equal sign, and then write the actual value of the variable that you wanted to store. For example, we can store the marks scored by a student like this: marks equals 94. And that's how you define a variable. Now let's see how to use them. After defining the variable, let's reference it in the print function. Let's say print open parentheses marks and then close parentheses. Now what do you think it will do? Let's see. Now as you can see in the output, it displays the value of the variable, that is 94. Please also note that I am not writing the marks in double quotes. That is really important because if I write the marks in double quotes, as you can see right here, and if I run this program, you will see it just print out the word marks. So I need to remove the double quotes for Python to know that I am referencing to a variable and not writing the word marks. Okay, now let's try defining more variables. First, let's define the name of the student like this. Note that I am putting double quotes here to tell Python that this is a string, which basically means that this is text. So now let's define the percentage variable in decimal, like 91.23. Now let's try another variable, is passed, and let's equal it to true. This is what we call a Boolean variable. It can store two possible values, either a true or a false. Note that I am not using double quotes to surround true or false here, and also that the word true should always begin with a capital T, as Python is a case sensitive language. So these four variables which we have defined here, these represent different data types which you can store in Python. A data type is basically a set of data that comes under one group. So for example, the first variable stores an integer which is 94. It can either be positive or negative. And the second variable, name, stores a string that is just text. And the third variable, percentage, stores a number with the decimal point, which is called a float. And the fourth variable, is passed, stores a Boolean value, which can be either true or a false. There are more data types in Python, but they are a bit more advanced, which we will cover in our later videos. These are the four most basic types of variables in Python. Now let's try printing out these variables to the terminal. First we write print, then we pass the print function the values that we want to print. We can pass the variable marks, then comma and the name and percentage and the variable passed. Now let's run our program and see the output. As you can see, we get the values of all the variables in the output. So we covered the basics about variables. Now let's see how to take input from the user in Python through the terminal. To take input, we can use the input function. The input function is built into Python and can take input through the terminal. Just a side note, a function is just a piece of code that can be called by another program and given some values which it can process and return an output. For example, when we write the print function, Python executes a piece of code stored in it that displays our values, and the values that we pass into any function through brackets are called arguments for that function. So, in the same way, the input function can be called by writing input, then open and close brackets. This is calling the input function without any arguments. But let's try passing it an argument of a string that will be displayed before taking the input. So we can write in double quotes, enter the marks. And now let's try and run our program. As you can see, the input function displays the string that we passed into it. And we can type out the input after the string. Let's type in 95 and press enter. As you can see, it accepts the value and terminates the program. But that is not very useful. We entered the value, but we didn't do anything with it. So let's try doing something with the input. To use the input value, we can store it in a variable. Let's say marks equals input, and we can pass it the string enter marks. And then let's print out the marks. And let's run this program and put in the marks and press enter. As you can see, it displays the marks just as intended. So before we finish this video, I would also like to give you an assignment. Make sure to at least try this assignment, because the more you program, the more you will get better at it. So your assignment is that you have to accept the name and the marks of a student along with the percentage as the input, and then you have to display them in the terminal using the print statement. I hope you will be able to do so. You will see the solution in the next video. I hope you had fun learning Python with me, and please join me for the next video as well. Until then, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you liked it. Thanks for watching.